You know, it's this dream we've had for basically all of human history. A world without war, where we're all on the same team. But let's be honest, given our track record, is that anything more than just a nice idea?
All right, so let's just get right into it. This is one of the biggest, most fundamental questions we can possibly ask. Can we, as a species, finally figure out a way to stop fighting for good?
I mean, people have been chasing this idea forever, from ancient philosophers to modern-day leaders. But here's the thing, to even have a shot at getting there, we first have to agree on what there actually is. What does peace even mean? Okay, so first things first, we've got to define our terms. Because it turns out, the word peace is a lot bigger and honestly a lot more interesting than you might think.
So this is a really crucial distinction that experts make. On the one hand, you have what's called negative peace. That's just the fighting has stopped. There's a ceasefire. It's great, but it's often really fragile. The real goal, though, is positive peace. Think of it this way. Negative peace is just not being sick. Positive peace is being truly healthy, strong, and resilient. It's not just the absence of war, it's the presence of things like justice, fair systems, and basic human rights that stop conflicts before they can even begin.
And man, the quest for peace has been a real roller coaster through history. For a long, long time, peace was just something the strongest empire imposed on everyone else, like the famous Pax Romana. Then you had thinkers like Kant, who started imagining a world where states could cooperate. But the 20th century just blew that idea apart with two absolutely horrific world wars. And it was out of that nightmare that the United Nations was born, which is basically our modern attempt to make sure something that devastating never happens again.
All right, so let's start with the good news. Let's look at the optimist's case, which basically argues that despite what you see in the headlines every day, humanity is actually, slowly but surely, getting better at this. So the big idea here is that our values have changed. Thinkers like Steven Pinker have made a compelling case that over the centuries, our circle of empathy has gotten wider and wider. We've gotten rid of things like institutionalized slavery and public torture, things that were once considered totally normal. There's just this growing feeling around the world that violence is a terrible way to solve problems. And wow, this chart right here, this is pretty much the optimist's Exhibit A. Just look at the data. Ever since World War II ended, and we created things like the UN, the number of people dying in wars between major countries has fallen off a cliff. Now, that is not to say that all violence is gone, not by a long shot, but it does show that something fundamental has shifted in how nations deal with each other. And here's another huge reason for hope. We're all connected now. Thanks to globalization, our economies are woven together. Starting a war is just bad for business, for everybody. The cost is astronomical. Plus, we're all facing these massive shared problems, right? Things like climate change or pandemics. These are threats that don't care about borders, and the only way we can tackle them is by working together. Okay, but there's a flip side. A pretty big one, actually. So now we have to turn to the realists who look at all this optimism and say, hold on a minute. That's a beautiful story, but it's a fantasy.
And really, this whole debate comes down to two totally different ways of seeing the world. You have the idealists, who believe we can make progress, that cooperation is possible, and then you have the realists. They see the world as anarchic, meaning there's no world government, no global 911 to call. In that system, they argue, every country has to look out for number one, which makes power struggles and conflict pretty much inevitable.
And this idea goes way, way back. This guy, Thomas Hobbes, basically nailed the realist argument centuries ago. He said that without some higher authority to keep everyone in line, our natural state is just chaos, a war of every man against every man. Realists just take that idea and apply it to the whole planet.
And the realists have a long list of reasons why conflict isn't going anywhere. We still don't have a world police force. We're fighting more and more over scarce resources like water and energy. We're still deeply divided by ideology. Huge gaps between the rich and poor create instability. And now we have scary new technologies like killer drones and cyber weapons that create brand new ways to fight.
So what do we do with this? We've got this really hopeful view on one side and this pretty grim reality check on the other. Where does that leave us? Well, it means we have to find a way forward that sees the world as it is, but doesn't give up on what it could be.
Look, this isn't about wishing for peace. It's about actually rolling up our sleeves and building the foundation for that positive peace we talked about earlier. That means making international laws stronger, teaching our kids empathy and critical thinking, and really getting at the root causes of war, like poverty and injustice. It means controlling dangerous weapons. It's about building a world where we focus more on what makes us all human than on what makes us different. These are the hard, practical things we have to do.
And when you put all of that together, you arrive at this one really simple but really powerful conclusion. At the end of the day, a peaceful world isn't something that's just going to happen to us. It's not inevitable, but it's not impossible either. It all comes down to the thousands of choices that we, all of us, make every single day.
History doesn't move in a straight line. That long arc only bends toward peace if we all grab on and bend it together. So the final question here isn't really for governments or philosophers. It's for you. It's for me. It's for us. What choice are we going to make?